Sir, you brought some energy into this session, and some of the ideas that you talked about was like after China attained the status of second largest economy of the world, it felt uh, some international responsibilities. So China came up with its people-centric initiatives, and that is how when President Xi Jinping in China launched their Belt and Road Initiative, and the idea was to share the prosperity with the rest of the world, especially the developing world. China integrated its Confucian thought of win-win proposition into this Belt and Road Initiative. And you talked about the flagship project of BRI, which is CPEC, China Pakistan Economic Corridor. And you mentioned the $19 billion investment is already made into the first phase of CPEC. And these are some of the infrastructure projects which obviously common people are getting benefit out of it. And then you talked about the global development initiative, that now the developed world is also thinking the Chinese lines and is kind of replicating the Chinese model, and also thinking about how China is approaching its development initiative. And that is kind of a lesson for a developed world. And also as a Pakistani, it also kind of gives us hope and trust in China. So very powerful ideas you shared, very powerful uh, thoughts. As always, Amir Rasid Saab, thank you so much. Now moving to our next speaker, Mr. Khizar Zaman. He is waiting, and the floor is yours. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, sir. I would add some key aspects to this narrative or gathering, that China has been implementing the Vision 2030 project under their 13th fifth year program, and it was launched on January 2016. Under it, China has been implementing the UN-based Sustainable Development Goals. And under these goals, there are many parameters of international development, such as eradicating poverty, ecological civilization, and third, the global climate and sustainable governance is going to achieve under this umbrella. Second thing I would like to add up here, that in the long run, China is going to, in my opinion, help us to achieve high-tech growth rather than agrarian-based economy. And third and the last I would add up here, that China is implementing this 13th fifth year plan by investing in all of its countries, whether it's a friend or foe. I think China has also invested in India after fighting 1962 war, and currently China had established its manufacturing plants in India to manufacture many auto parts and some other goods within the India. So I would not talk for long in this session, as I am the last speaker, but I think China has implemented and achieved many goals that no other country has so far been able to achieve the task. So we should congratulate our Chinese friends on this. And secondly, I would think that there are many projects, Chinese projects, which have paved the way to for better development within our two countries. First and more foremost, the Karakoram Highway project between Pakistan and China, which has started from in year 1969 and had completed in the 80s. I think it was 1979 when the project was completed. So there are many Chinese who had laid their lives for the betterment and opening of China with Pakistan. So they owe gratitude from us. It's perhaps the only country, Pakistan, for which they had laid their lives for us. And I would end up here that Chinese phrase it as Chungwa Bajistan Yoi Wansui, which means that Chungwa is China, Bajistan is Pakistan, Yoi is friendship, one is 10,000 years, and Soe is age. That the friendship between Pakistan and China will remain for thousands of years. So I will end up here with this note. Thank you very much.
Friendship between Pakistan and China will remain for 1,000 years. And we were listening to the powerful voice of Khizar Zaman Sahab. Thank you, Khizar Zaman Sahab, for your contribution and input. I think with this, we are done with the speakers, the panelists of the second session. And now we would proceed to the question answer session. I think we have ample time for question answers today. And as Professor Zamir Awan mentioned is in speech that he has immense knowledge about China because he has stayed in China, he's lived in China, and he has very closely watched the development of China. So I would request all of you to contribute. If you want to make a comment and if you want to ask a question, do ask, and make this session a dialogue instead of kind of a monologue. It should be interactive session. We must all learn from these sessions, and that's the purpose of conducting these sessions. That's the purpose we are gathered today, even on Saturday and Sunday. So I would open the floor for questions. I think please raise your hands and also let me know to whom your question is directed. I can see one hand is raised by Youth Diplomatic.
Yes, Sayyid Shamsul Hassan,
yeah, please.
if you allow
please.
me to add few remarks or few of the points, because it was very informative and it was understandable by everyone, as Zamir Ahmed Awan Saab has explained in a very detail, from the very basics about the sustainability, what really is the sustainable development, and then the comparison between the American and Chinese system, funding, and all that. So it was very informative, and then followed by the panel discussion. So I think panelists also talked about the sustainable development goals. So I would like to add a few of the points regarding the climate change, or you can say zero carbon emission. So this is the report of October 2022, that 2 years ago, Chinese President Xi Jinping formally announced the world's second largest economy that would strive for peak carbon emission in 2030 and carbon neutrality in 2060. It means that China will be carbon neutral in 2060. While the country struggles to wean off itself coal, analysts said that Beijing's top-level emphasis is on climate. That has fueled a policy to support businesses focused on renewable energy. So China is also focusing on renewable energy. China is also focusing on you can say, electric cars, electric buses, and other, infrastructure services. So still the last 2 years show that how Chinese leadership struggle to balance growth and economic interest with achieving climate goals, especially in an economy where coal is the dominant energy source. So coal is one of the dominant energy source in Chinese economy, and now they are replacing it with the renewable energy. Then, as I said, overseas expansion, I already talked about electric cars and batteries. That is, Chinese EV makers expanding their businesses beyond China. They are not only, you can say, working within China, but they are exporting as well. As one of our speakers discussed about the export competitiveness. So they are their renewables, their electric cars, and their other, services and products. They are not only making, or they are not only producing, but they are exporting them to other countries as well. And that's very important that in 2060, China will be carbon neutral. So these are a few of my remarks I would like to add. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You very well talked about the carbon neutrality and the climatic change issues and the zero carbon emissions that China is kind of working on. And yes, there's a lot of talk about the climate issues all over the world. It's kind of talk of the town. West is talking much about it. China has also kind of taken the lead on climate issues. And that's why we learn about the greening BRI thing. Like you must have heard about the Belt and Road Initiative and the provision of greening this project. So they want the carbon emissions to be zero. I mean, that would be phenomenal. And we witnessed like the industrial revolution of the West, where the lot of damage was done to the climate, and as a developing country, we are witnessing the latest floods that came. That was the result of those carbon emissions, and therefore China is taken into account those climate issues, and that's important agenda on the global development initiative and global security initiative as well, because Mother Earth cannot take much damage on the climate thing, and then the natural forces will itself like balance everything. So yes, climate is an important issue, and you talked about it. Thank you for your input. Thank you for your contribution.